On the Racing Insiders this week, the Tudor Championship gets to a road course, a natural road course, one of the most beautiful in America. We've got the latest from Peter Keane. He's got some headlines for you. The Continental Tire Sportscar Challenge, that happened last weekend. We've got background on that too. A lot of changes are going on as this Tudor thing unfolds. The FIA World Endurance Championship, Audi might be having some troubles. Toyota wins again. The DTM, Audi gets 3 of the first 4 places. We'll tell you which ones they are. Rally America, man, Travis Pastrana was right there, and we'll tell you that story too. And Formula Drift is coming up this weekend. Frederick Osbo, we've got an exclusive interview with the Norwegian champion next on the Racing Insiders. Welcome back to the Racing Insiders, the only place in broadcasting where you're going to get sports car content every week. I'm Bill Wood in Los Angeles, Jeff Lepper is in Folsom, California, and Peter Keane is back in Florida after an incredible weekend with the Spirited Daytona team at the Tudor United Sports Car Championship. Jeff, it was a wild weekend, new races, different teams, crazy weekend.
Yeah, Bill, it really was great to see that a P2 car finally won. Of course, they made a competition adjustment to the prototypes. ACO has to complain about the P2 cars not keeping up with the prototypes, all to make that happen. But it was that Extreme Speed Motorsports, Johannes Van Overbeek and Ed Brown finally getting the breakthrough win in a P2 car. But the heartbreak has got to be that GTD class with Spencer Pompelli and the Audi leading, running out of gas, coming out of the corkscrew, coasting down the hill and stopping about 100 yards from the finish line and allowing Dane Cameron and his Tudor Motorsports BMW Z4 to get that win.
It was wild. The crazy win, even had a little bump drafting in the last turn in one of the races. Peter Keane, Spirited Daytona team, you're our racing insider at the Tudor United Sports Car Championship. Give us some background on what happened this big weekend. The P2s finally got their win at a natural road course.
Well, like Jeff said, you know, they got a little help for this weekend at Mazda Laguna Seca. I got to tell you, the Spirited Daytona boys and the VisitFlorida.com Corvette, they did a little testing at Buttonwillow after Long Beach, and we kind of found some stuff. We've been 4 or 5 tenths of the second off the pace all year long, and kind of got it back, and had a really good qualifying run, qualified second. The Patron car out qualified us, but I mean it was a great effort. Obviously, the P2 cars were very strong. It's still, I think the balance of performance is pretty good. Maybe the P2 cars are a little bit too stronger. They seem to be better on long runs. But, overall it was a pretty good weekend for Spirited Daytona until we got a crazy call from saying that we forced the 42 car off the road when we were on cold tires. It's kind of a crap call, but I'll be nice about that. How's that, Bill?
I talked to Johannes Van Overbeek, and he was saying that the P2 cars, they're probably going to have a little advantage on the natural road courses. Detroit is coming next, and the torque of the DPs may come back to bear. The P2s might have a problem in Detroit.
Well, you definitely could see the adjustment. I mean, they now had even power with this, with a traditional Daytona prototype. And then on the long runs, they just flat with that extra down, with the extra downforce, they just flat wore us down. And I mean, he made it look, Van Overbeek made it look really easy going around Jordan Taylor. He just kind of hunted him down like a dog and passed him when he wanted to. So, and that's kind of what we saw all weekend long. That the P2 cars are really good on long runs. I guess if we can get a crash fest, maybe the Daytona prototypes have a chance. But let's pack up our stuff and head to Detroit in a street course, and that brings on its whole other animal. So.
Well, Peter, I mean, we talk about going to like Road America and a track like that. With the weight advantage of the DP cars, can't you just simply push a P2 car out of the way if you did get into a battle with them wheel to wheel?
Well, I hate to say that. I mean, Jeff, that's kind of what I was upset about the call. And we came out of the pits on cold tires ahead of the 42, and of course Westbrook's doing what he can to keep them behind him, and the 42 car tries to do a crazy pass around the outside of us in 5 and gets run off the track. I mean, Westbrook never even touched him, but somehow that's illegal. But in the beginning of the race, Jackerman can beat the rear diffuser right off our car, wailing us for lap after lap at the beginning of the race, hitting Valiente in the back, and that's okay. So I don't really know where they are. I guess you can have contact as long as you don't leave the surface. But if you don't have contact and they leave the surface, it's a penalty. So it's kind of confusing right now. How's that, Jeff?
There you go. I like that one. And Corvette, when you look at the GTLM, made it 2 in a row as well, coming out of the last round at Sebring. So is the SRT Vipers or Ferrari's going to be able to touch the Corvette this year?
Well, I think they were struggling, a little bit. They definitely had, great speed at Sebring and Daytona, and then all of a sudden, at the road course at, Laguna Seca there, the Mazda Laguna Seca, they didn't show the speed, And I got to tell you, Antonio Garcia has stepped up his game for his first, I think that was his first GTLM pole, and then, Jan drove off and left the field, and then Antonio got in and finished it up. I mean, those guys, whatever they shook up at Corvette Racing after Sebring, they've turned the light switch on because those boys are on it right now.
So let's get to the Continental Tire race. Some headlines in there. You told us before we started the show that maybe there's some changes coming, some headlines there?
Well, yeah, obviously it was great to see Trent Hinman, a young kid, young club racer, get a win for Fall Line Motorsports in the BMW, and then Eric Kearns finally got that Camaro running pretty strong. Well, of course, I guess the Camaro won at Sebring, but they looked real strong. On the ST side, I guess it's fitting for Mazda Laguna Seca to have the Mazda MX-5 cars were the class of the field. They ran off and hid. They're making big horsepower now with those 2.5-liter engines they have this year, and they were definitely the class of the field all weekend long. Nobody could touch those MX-5 cars, but I guess good for Mazda. It's their home, and I'm glad for John Doonan. How's that?
There are some good names I could bring into the mix. Max Riddle is a rally driver from British Columbia, Canada. He's grown up through the rally ranks. He's starting to get back to some of his road racing roots. And Tyler McQuarrie, the drifter, his car was on the pole. Right. They led most of practice for the Continental Tire in the ST category. Did you get a chance to see them? Is that just part of the leadership from the MX-5? Some of these guys really know how to drive, even though they don't have the great road racing roots.
Well, I got to tell you a funny story. I saw Randy Popst after qualifying, and he said, I think he qualified second in his MX-5 Cup car or MX-5 car, and then he was telling me how good Andrew Carbonell is. So, that they're kind of passing the torch. Randy's the seasoned veteran, kind of passing it on to the kid. He goes, I kind of got a great job. I just got to bring him home, run up front and bring him home a whole car and let Andrew go do what he does. And that's what happened. And Freedom Autosports ended up winning the race in ST. So a good call out to them. That they're great. That's a great team.
Spent a lot of time on the Mazda Raceway Tudor race, but let's get to the FIA World Endurance Championship. Audi's the defending champion in that series. They come out with a new car, and they're having a little teething problems. Toyota won again. Audi was second, but wow, you don't expect this kind of thing to happen. When Audi puts its mind to it, it normally wins, Jeff, and Toyota has the better idea right now.
Well, and, watching the race, Bill, it looked like Toyota just flat drove away from Audi, which is something that we haven't seen since, Peugeot won Le Mans. Now, Spa race was considered the prelude to Le Mans. This is the final round before they head over and do the 24 hours of Le Mans for the World Endurance Championship. So this really might give us a prelude of what we're looking at. Don't get me wrong, Audi did enter a third car at Spa. They might have been trying a bunch of different things, getting ready for the 24 hours of Le Mans at Spa. Maybe give that as a go-ahead throwaway race because all their efforts are focused on that 24-hour race. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out when we go to Le Mans in June, if Audi can recover. And really right now, Toyota is dominating, 2 wins in a row. And like I said, it looked like they just flat drove away from the Audi.
You're absolutely right, Jeff. Audi spends a lot of time preparing for Le Mans in June. You remember when they would come here to the United States and run at Sebring, they would go 30, 36 hours to try to get ready for the June race. But now at Spa, it's getting closer. The June race is coming up next month, a month from now. And Toyota seems to, they were first and second the previous race, and now they won again, and Audi's not used to losing.
No, they're not, and I don't know if that's something that they expected to have happen for these first 2 races or not. Trust me, Dalton Ulrich has a plan. He's not going to go into Le Mans or any race unprepared, knowing what they're going to do. So we'll have to see, like I said, wait till June to see how this plays out. I expect Audi to be really good at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, especially if they're having problems at the first 2 rounds, Silverstone and then now Spa. But how about for that Porsche 919 hybrid? On the pole, their first pole, second race out. Great job for them, and then a podium finishing in 3rd.
The Toyotas, they've run strong. They've been fast at Le Mans, but it's always been an endurance problem, keeping the cars together for the entire 24 hours. That's always been the strength of the Audi, to get in and out of the pits quick, to make whatever fixes need to come up during the night, to get those done quickly. And you think Toyota has got that under control now, so they could couple endurance with speed?
Well, it would have been a 1-2 for a Toyota had it been for when Duval pitted right there at the end. Audi had a tremendous pit stop and was able to pass them in the pits and get ahead of that second place Porsche or Toyota at the time. So that really slotted the 2 Toyotas, and that Toyota had a problem and ended up finishing in 6th, I believe. So Audi, like I said, Audi has a game plan. They know what they're doing.
Well, let's get to the DTM, where Audi has won. They had cars in 3 of the first 4 places, but BMW gets the win. Audi is, I don't know, they put a lot of energy, a lot of effort into this new e-tron Quattro. Do you think that maybe took away from some of the other things that they were doing? They won the DTM championship last year with Mike Rockenfeller. This was the DTM opener this past weekend, but they had 3 of the top 4 cars, but they didn't get the win. You think that says anything about what the season's going to be after only 1 race? That's what we do in the media. We throw the stuff out there when we probably shouldn't.
Nah, we should wait and see what happens. I mean, when you're 2nd, 3rd, and 4th against the mighty BMWs, but Whitman finally getting a breakout win. He was able to do that in that BMW, the brand new M4 in DTM, for great run by him, and he was more of that domination too. Won by 7 seconds over the Audis. It was 2nd, 3rd, and 4th with Rockenfeller. You mentioned him being in 4th place. Matthias Ekstrom was in 2nd in the quote-unquote factory Audi. So we'll see how the whole Audi plays out. Of course, when you call DTM factory, every single driver in the DTM is paid, and they're all factory guys anyway, so I don't know why you have a factory team versus a privateer team in DTM. But how about Joey Hand finishing in the top 10 after qualifying 16th in DTM as well? Great run for him at Hockenheimring.
Man, I would sure like to see Joey get in there in the top 5 in points this year. He's been doing well in qualifying, and he just can't turn the tide when it comes to the races. For the last couple of years now, really want to see him get in there in the top 5 and be recognized. He's got some incredible driving skill, but it's not showing that the results at the end of the year in the final standings. Let's get to Rally America. Coming up right after this, Travis Pastrana, man, he was going in only his second event back, and we'll tell you about that. This is the Racing Insiders. Come on back. Hear what happened at Oregon in the American Rally Championship.
This segment of the Racing Insiders was brought to you by Go Pro, be a hero. Want to keep up with all the racing action at the track? Well, download the new Go Racing TV iPhone and Android app. And remember to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Welcome back to the Racing Insiders. I'm Bill Wood in Los Angeles. Jeff Lepper is in Folsom, California. The longest rally in the American Championship was this past weekend, the Oregon Trail Rally. And it happens Friday night is a big festival at the PIR, Portland International Raceway. Then they go out and they run east of Portland in a lot of flat country over there and some mountainous roads. It's a really grand event. And Travis Pastrana and Chrissy Beavis, his co-driver, they really had a chance to do well. because Craig Drew, the two-time defending champion, he had some problems with the engine at the end of day 2, gave up about a minute or so to Travis, and Travis ended up leading in only a second event back after day 2. An incredible run. A lot of people were wringing their hands like, what's going to happen? I was tempted to call the Subaru team to find out if there'd be any team orders to let Travis win, but it was a crazy. Wait just a second. We'll get to the finish. How'd you like the way things ran there in Portland this past weekend, Jeff?
Well, I mean, it's always exciting. I think it's really cool that they started out there at, PIR. I think that's one thing that Rally America needs to do, whether you do it in a stadium, through city streets, through a downtown area. Do something that you can bring the fans out and get people, especially in North America, excited about rally racing. I mean, there's nothing better than watching a K-rail line street and watching these great rally cars spitting fire and gravel and rocks up into the crowd in the air. I think it would be great. It was an awesome show they put on at PIR. I think that facility is good enough to hold the whole rally there instead.
That's what happened with the teams on Thursday. This event, they do a whole thing in downtown Portland, and the people come out at lunchtime and see the cars. Then they have on Friday the big show at the racetrack. And then David Higgins has his engine problems, puts Travis on the front. And David, you would think there'd be some team orders maybe, but David comes back on Sunday and starts hammering, just hammering. 2 seconds here, 3 seconds there, and closes to within about 6 seconds on Travis when Travis gets to stage 17 of 19 and has 2 flat tires. Gave up more than a minute to Craig Drew as co-driver and David Higgins, the defending champion. And David and Craig go on to get the win. And Travis did manage to finish second in the event. It was wild. The big headline on the event, though, was from Nick Roberts, who was one of the favorites in the super production category. He was the Rookie of the Year last year. He's run less than maybe 10 or 12 events, had a problem with the rear diff on his Subaru. He's going down the road, sees some dust in the car, all of a sudden smoke in the car, and then bam, there's flames in the car. He helps his co-driver, Rhiannon Gelsomino, get out of the car before the whole thing goes up in flames, burns to the ground. And Rhiannon had to be taken to the hospital. She's okay for observation, had some burns on her face and hands. Nick was all right. It was a dramatic time. They stopped the rally and transited to service and went on. This was Saturday. Wow. Burned to the ground. Some of the pictures on her Instagram page and some video, it was dramatic stuff. I know their crew chief with their team, he was up to his eyebrows on Saturday trying to make sure everybody was okay. It could have been so much worse, but just a simple thing, no crash, no electrical, just some weirdness in the diff caused the fire, Jeff.
Yeah, they think maybe it might have been the overflow coming loose, or possibly there was something with the pump. They have a cooler pump on the diffs that maybe the diff pump failed and caused it to overheat and cause that fire. But you're right, Bill, man. It burned to the ground. There was nothing left. I don't think that car is salvageable whatsoever. Hey, if you can do it, it's nice and lightweight now. You got the metal burned on it, so it's maybe it's a good start to a new rally car.
There was another headline, Raman Alagaman, who used to be a Subaru factory driver, he shows up in a two-wheel drive category in a BMW and outruns the points leader in two-wheel drive, the 2009 North American Rally Champion, Andrew Conry Picard. There's a lot of things that are happening in the American Championship. Man, I would love to see Raman to be able to get back and run regularly. He's such a phenomenal driver, and he just can't get the support, can't get the car. And
well, I'd like to see him go up against ACP anyway, so it'd be good to see that battle go up against those two guys.
Yeah. Matt Johnston, who won the first event, finished second to ACP in Missouri. He had some engine problems in the Scion, and he went out early. Formula Drift has an incredible crowd. The Atlanta Crazies, they get out there it's the most popular event in the series outside of Southern California at Long Beach and at Irwindale. They'll get 10, 15,000 people screaming their heads off at Road Atlanta. They build a special like a Formula Drift stadium. They're not using the track like they do in some places. They've got their own little course there, some phenomenal driving going down the hill. Let's get to Frederick Ospo. He was 4th last year in points. He's 5th right now after Long Beach. It's time for the Norwegian champion to win. Here's Frederick Ospo.
Good to talk to you again, partner. Your championship in Norway. You're here. You're getting a lot of attention. Talk to Steph. He's pretty happy with you. Are you ready to win some events and get a championship here?
I hope so. You know, I've been working hard.
I don't want to hear I hope so. It's time for Frederick Ospo to step up and win.
It is. And since last season, I've actually been able to get another win. You know, we won the Formula Drift Asia round in Thailand, which was a great deal. You know, the RSR guys were super happy. We've been able to dial that 86 in to my liking. And we had an excellent event, you know, qualifying first, winning the event, can't ask for more. And coming into Long Beach, there's a bunch of really good looking guys out here. So it's going to be tough, but I feel ready.
A lot of guys rebuilt their cars in the off season. You didn't. That gives you a lot of confidence because you know you've got a package that works?
Yeah, for the most part. You know, we did only do exterior changes. I mean, the car has a totally different livery and a new kit now, a new Rocket Bunny kit. Under the skin, it's pretty much identical. We're doing some minor setup changes. We'll be playing with some different cam setups later in the year to try and dial in more power for the banked courses. But for the most part, it's the same. And like you said, the good thing about that is that I know what I have. You know, I know that the car is good. We did well here last year. I also know where we need to work more. And that's something.
Where's that?
Basically braking power. I want to be able to brake harder.
Wait a minute. You never think about braking and drifting. Braking's important. I mean, obviously in motorsports, you go fast, you got to slow down. But braking is very important in drifting?
One of the most important things, if you think about it, you are supposed to be mimicking the guy in front. You will always be able to foresee exactly what he's doing. So if you can outbrake that guy, meaning you can stop quicker than him, you have a huge advantage.
You know, I'd like Steph Papadakis, his crew chief. He's the only one to win 2 consecutive championships. He was the crew chief when Tanner won those championships about 7-8 years ago. Frederick, it's really time for him to win. That car is beautiful. They didn't do a lot of changes. Everybody else went crazy over the offseason. That's just a solid car. It's time for Frederick to get some wins and challenge for the championship.
Well, you know, he's a Norwegian hammer. He was the fan favorite anywhere he goes. He's already won round 1 of the Asia Drift Series for Formula D, so he can definitely get it done. Hopefully we'll see some good results from him at Road Atlanta.
Yeah, man, I cheer for, and you're not supposed to cheer when you're a journalist, but I do cheer for Stefan because Frederick drives for him. Steph and I talk music all the time, and I just cheer for him. The Racing Insider's calendar this weekend, we had the Formula Drift in Atlanta this weekend, and next weekend the V8 Supercars, the Perth 400, that's coming up here in the United States. It's Mother's Day. That's pretty important to us. Jeff, what do you have planned?
I don't know, man. I'm thinking about going to see my mom on Mother's Day. Of course, I'm really going to Hawaii where she lives because I want to go to Hawaii, but you can see my mom would be cool too. But I'll probably just sit at home, relax, and watch Formula D at Road Atlanta.
That's pretty difficult. Somebody's got to go to Hawaii, Jeff. Come on, that's what keeps the economy going. That's the Racing Insiders for this week. For Jeff Lepper in Folsom, California, Peter Keane in Florida, I'm Bill Wood in Los Angeles. Look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, take care of each other, respect each other. Have a grand week. Peace.